Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is Grand Arena for the alt account, week 2 of season 28. This is going to be all 3 rounds. We start off this week at Bronzium 2. Last week we were at Bronzium 4, but we were able to climb up to Bronzium 2 with a 3-0 week. And I'm going to try and repeat that this week on this account. I'm going to start off by showing where this account started off. This is the only time I'm going to show it, so if you want to see it, go back to this point in the video. We begin the week at 3.2 million GP. I don't know why I'm saying begin the week, because it's not like it's changing. But here's the Gear 12s, Gear 11, and Gear 10 on this roster. And again, what I'm doing with this account is showing an extreme version of what you can do by focusing on Gear 11 because of what that allows for rapid development. You should augment this by going after relics, but it's not what I'm doing on this account because I'm trying to prove a point here. So I'm intentionally leaving off some of that gear to show how effective this strategy can be. So, and you can look at the week by week new account video series to see more about what I'm doing, and I'll have a farming guide coming out at some point and some other methods videos on it. Now for my opponent, Davium93, this is what he's working with and what I have to go up against. You can see his Datacrons, he's got relics. He's at 5.83 million GP. I'm going to order this by gear tier in a second, as soon as it occurs to me. So he's got a lot of relics, a lot of gear 12. A lot of gear 12. You can see all the gear 11. He's got a deep roster. But at 5.8 million GP, it suggests a couple things. One, he may not be very engaged with the game mode, and that he might make some strategically poor decisions. So here is what my roster, or my defense, looks like. I'm only going to show this at this point in the video. It's going to remain unchanged for the rest of the video. Pause if you want to look at it in more detail. But it's Night Sisters, Iden, Darth Revan, Geos, Padme, and then Rebels is my fleet. What I'm going up against is General Grievous and Karth. Down below, we have some weird stuff. We've got Phoenix and a weird Jedi camp. He's got the Omega on Qui-Gon. It's shocking that he's not the lead. And there's way too much gear on the Phoenix. Like, do not put any gear on the Phoenix above Gear 8 unless you are like where my main account is. Because I'm at a point on my main account where I can just gear things and it doesn't matter. They are nearly as bad as the Bad Batch without Kairos. Like, they are an awful squad to gear. Now, this Night Sister squad is nonsense. He needs to update his defense to have Qui-Gon lead. I'm going to throw in my Old Republic. They're fine. They're just highly geared and Zeta'd because of going after Darth Revan and Malak. And they'll be very effective against any nonsense squad, and this is a nonsense squad. I'm calling in Canderous a lot for the assists just because those triple hits is very effective, especially with Mace, and I forget what his taunting ability is called, but those stacks he gets that force taunt onto him. Those multiple hits from Canderous will get through it. You can see it's taking a little bit of work to get through Mace. We finally get through him, and without Mace, no one is really good here. Qui-Gon would be good if he was the lead. Plo Koon has a nice ability giving some speed, but really Plo Koon's only use is his ship. Ahsoka's a little annoying because she has that unevadable basic. the rest of this straightforward. And now for Luminara, who I guess she's easy enough to gear that it's whatever, but I just geared up my Luminara a couple months ago on my main account. Give you an idea of when I did. That's a 5-year-old account now, I think. 1 year less than how old this game is. I've lost track. Now with the Phoenix squad, am I gonna do Separatists? Yeah. The reason I thought I don't really remember this at this point because it was earlier in the week, but the best squads I have on this account are CLS and Jedi Knight Revan. Or the best squads I have for offense are Jedi Knight Revan and CLS. So looking for a good squad that I don't rely on. I've been adding a lot of gear to the Separatists at this point, so they're at that stage. The reason I didn't call in the mass assist from Newt is because I want that extortion to spread. And if I would have killed Hera, it wouldn't have been spreading around the board. Now everyone has extortion. I don't mind if characters start falling down. And the Separatists, they're a pretty cheap team to gear, although I put them off for a while on this account. I didn't get to the majority of them until after the first year was completed, which was a surprise, not what I was intending. But once I unlocked Padme with Geos, it was kind of unnecessary. Just checking the tenacity here, because I want to go up against the Ewoks with Nest, but I'm not absolutely certain where the mods are on this Nest, because I'm not as dedicated to this account as I am with the main account, and can't just keep them both straight. Deciding between the two, but I like the leadership on Cure with the stacking damage. Consider I'm going undersized. That's going to have a slight edge over the Dash Lead. The Dash Lead's pretty good. But with the prepared synergy, I'm not going to have prepared all the time using Nest, so Kira was slightly better. I want to get through Elder quickly. But it looks like with how low that potency was on Logray, we're not going to have to worry about the day's landing. I think it was like 52% or somewhere in that was the potency, and my Nest was at like 100. But it did land the days there. Landing a lot of dazes. Now he's exposed. I went for the basic to dispel the tenacity up, because the first special wasn't going to land the stun with the tenacity up in place. I don't have the Zeta, that's why I can't target around the taunt. And that's just me being careful with Zetas on this account. It is a nice Zeta, it's just not required. Like when you're dealing with your first 20 Zetas, I'd skip it. There we go. Although Logray would have been gone a long time ago had I had the Zeta. Now we still have my two best squads in Jedi Knight Revan and CLS. They're gonna just rip through these. This is there will be no surprises here. Against Karth, we're gonna do Rebels. We are going for the undersize. I think I'm done with the quest though. The Raidhan quest. Counter Karth out of the way. Canderous is the one that annoys me the most with the triple hit. T3 and 4 is something I'm going to explore a little bit with this account. I'm wondering, because I really like Sortie, I'm wondering to what degree I can get use out of Sortie if the gear isn't in place, if the Zetas aren't in place, and you just have those droids. It's probably not quite the same as what I can do on my main account. This is kind of a nonsense squad he's giving me. Okay. So very clean, straightforward match so far. Most people only have one fleet, so I'm not expecting there to be a prohibitive fleet on defense. But we'll see in a moment. Oh, this is the thing that I should highlight. HK-47 has a ton of recovery up against Jedi. That's why it was taking so long, why he was taking so many hits. But with the gear difference, with the quality of the characters, I was able to get through it. If that had been like a Relic HK-47, that would have been a timeout. It has happened to me on this account before. No, this is a nonsense squad. This is what I'm talking about with fleets. A lot of players are not deep enough in their fleet. It's one of the biggest mistakes I see in new accounts. It's just players completely ignoring that they need to go deep quickly and early. And even when you have two fleets, like I know this is something that I repeat, you cannot get complacent. You have to keep going. You have to get to 4 fleets. And when you have 4 fleets, you gotta keep going. It's one of the strongest advantages you can have. And with round 1, that is a win. Here are the results. He only did a single battle, so that was a default win. The results are a little uninteresting. This is kind of what I was expecting with an account that's at 5.8 million and is still in this Bronzium 2 category. With this round, Terran DeHunt has a roster of a good amount of relics, 6 million GP, so even larger than the last round. Take a look at this in terms of gear tier. A lot of relics. That's a lot of relics. Shifting into the gear 12. See, a pretty deep roster. That makes sense. 6 million GP roster. Like, if you got the right squads, the right relics, you might have a chance at Kyber. But you definitely shouldn't be in Bronzium. So again, go back to the beginning of the video if you want to see my defense or my roster. Not going to hit it again. Got Night Sisters and Phoenix. Even more gear on the Phoenix. Pretty terrifying. Relics on the Bosk. And then we got this Geo squad. I'm going to start with them. Palpatine lead is my standard counter here with Mara Jade. Mara Jade with that offense and speed boost and potency boost. All you really need. Maybe not speed boost, offense and potency boost. I forget all the bonuses. Going with basics, spreading the ability blocks around. If you have a Relic Vader, and you should, like, he should probably be the first Relic. At least among the first 5, no doubt. But I'm leaving it off to make a dumb point. But with the Relic Vader, you don't need to worry about landing the ability blocks as much as I am. But I like to be a little bit more careful, make sure that I don't throw it too early and get myself into trouble. Especially because I'm dispelling at that point. Get full stun on everyone, spread shocks around. And at this point, like, it's as good as one. I'm just taking my time and being careful. Could probably throw it right now and be completely safe. I threw it at someone else just in case I was wrong, but I wasn't. Alright, we're done. And that's no Zeta on Palp. It would be even more dominant with the Zeta on Palpatine. Now we got full relics here. Looks scary, but then troopers are awesome. And look at these troopers. 83, gear 10. These are not great. Level 80 on Dark Trooper and Range Trooper. This is why I push this squad on everything that I do. You can't put this squad off. It's one of the easiest squads to gear, to farm. There's a Zeta on, there's 2 Zetas here, one on Veers Unique, one on Emperor's Trap. We're focusing on Aura Singh because she's the weakest character and going to be the easiest one to take out. The Emperor's Trap Zeta is important here. That's giving us that stacking damage. Going after Mando next, he's pretty easy to take out. No, you can't lay down on the cords. Mando, at that point, maybe the stacks were low enough where it would be a little worrisome, but we're at a point now where it's as good as one. Putting an armor shred on Bosk to make things a little easier. But the Bounty Hunter's resolve is actually helping us out with these sacrifices and revives helping the Veers unique. Going with the mass assist to give more stacks. I don't need it to get through Boba Fett. As you can see, the basics are getting through Boba Fett. There we go. Done with Bosk. Full Relic Bounty Hunters. No problem with that weak Imperial Trooper squad. Back wall here, we got a Ray 2 Relics. And because that front territory is so easy, we're going to start back here, trying to decide about how I want to approach this in case it doesn't work out. Because it's still a good squad. We still got to respect the relics. Started off with JTR because the Hans shoot first. We can ignore the foresight. Probably should have taken out someone else. At least it probably would have been in my interest to prevent R2 putting everyone into stealth. Like, I get away with it because he stealthed C-3PO, and that allowed me to be able to target anyone I wanted, but had he targeted anyone else where JTR was stronger, like, that would have been bad. We're still going to lose. But I think it was winnable in one attempt if I played it differently. Heading up top. It's as good as one. It's just a matter of choosing which team I want to counter with it. With Night Sisters here, taking Jedi, which is the safer counter from my options because my tray is not great on this account, and by using the Rebels the way I did, I know, and being able to make the progress I did on that JTR team, I don't have to save these Jedi to counter that JTR. That right there was me realizing he doesn't have a Gear 10 zombie. Because when I took out the Telzine, there was not a sacrifice, and I was like, oh, I just assumed zombie was Gear 10. So important to have that. I feel like this is getting a little choppy. I'm hoping this footage is good. Let's see, this is getting a little sloppy. If I played it a little cleaner to start, it wouldn't have got this scary, but we're fine. I called in Basil trying to get the ability block. We don't get it. There we go. Played it poorly, which is why it took so much time. That I was a little surprised by not having that the Gear 10 zombie, not anticipating that. The gear on this Phoenix squad hurts me. Like, I just, like, if you are a guild leader and you have a smaller guild, don't let people who join your guild overgear their Phoenix. There's so many stun guns and Carbantes you're losing. Getting rid of Kanan because he's causing the counters. Once the counters are gone, there's nothing to worry about. It's just a little annoying when they do counter. I don't even remember what Sabine adds to the squad. I don't think it's much. There, we blast through it. I think we're ready for fleet, right? There's a lot of... Oh no, I got to clean up JTR. I probably use Separatists, right? No, Treya. Treya would be a good idea. Because I got to work on that Treya quest. Treya is just a very Carbante heavy squad. And when you're trying to rapidly develop your roster, these squads that are Carbante heavy can slow you down. I also don't have the Zetas on this squad yet, so it does hamper it. I think I'm going to annihilate C-3PO, unless the stealth stays off. You know, I should have thrown the isolate on R2 to make sure he didn't stealth. Now this guy, I think this is a negotiator. I think I remember how this goes. Yeah. So I'm checking what the gear level is. He's got a gear 12 Anakin, and he has a Relic 7 GK. Now I have the Malevolence, which is a safe counter, but I don't have the gear to match. I've got gear 11 Geos, gear 12 Grievous, like, really, I need to have a Relic Grievous. And with the amount of damage that my Hyena Bomber takes, and how quickly the protection goes down, you can kind of see the impact of it. Although, I think I get too distracted by Slave 1 here. And I think, had I just stayed focused over on Anakin, maybe this plays out differently. See, I probably should have kept going for Anakin, but what I was hoping for now we take out, we got Slave 1, but it's really not the threat. Especially considering cleanup scenarios, Anakin is the one that's the problem. Focusing on getting rid of Anakin would have been the way to go. Like, we can't survive those bombs. And I have multiple other fleets I can bring in, but it's not the same. So we got Chimera here, we got bounty hunters we can bring in. I think I'll show this one, because this is at least a semi-usable fleet. And with Razor Crest we can ignore Taunt. The problem is the gear level on these pilots isn't even close. Yeah, like, we're not doing any damage, just it's not there. So we're not going to clear fleet this time around, but we did a great job on everything else. That's where we ended up. We'll pull up the next video and I'll show the results. And here we get another win. Couldn't get through the fleet, but my Darth Revan gets to hold up front here. He needs 2 shots up against Iden. That's why that Omicron is so awesome. Back territory, I think he one-shots the fleet, if I remember correctly. Yeah. But you can see he doesn't get through Darth Revan. Takes 5 attempts, handles Geos no problem. But my Gear 11, or mostly Gear 11, Darth Revan squad does its job. So my opponent, Miriun Valhoon, he's got a GP of 4.7 and he has a GL Ray. So we know most of his relics are going to be Galactic Legend related, but he has a number of Gear 12 characters to go along with it. Pretty nice roster, and we know he's going to be more engaged and more serious than the other opponents because he has a much more GP appropriate for the division. One shots everything, but what I'm guessing is he saves, well, I know at this point, but 2 shots up against the Rebel fleet. Everything else is 1 shot. But a player like this probably keeps his Ray for offense when he could use his Ray on defense and probably shut out most of his opponents and win more often. So we got CLS and a Relic JTR squad, and now we got a pretty weak Rogue One squad and a Smuggler squad. He should use Radis. Radis will make that squad much better. Now going into this matchup, the Rogue One has the Gear 12. They're fairly similar squads. He should have Radis. Like, Radis would make it much better. And I use bounty hunters, right? Or do I go Old Republic? Shift over here. So I stick with bounty hunters, and this is just because my bounty hunters are good, but they're not one of my top squads. I want to make sure I retain a good counter for the back wall. He's got a lot more relics. We don't know what we could be surprised with back there, especially because he's a GL player. Grief Karga put the retribution up. We did a lot of counters there. Get the mass assists, get the contract. Go after Chirrut before he can cleanse all these debuffs. I need these debuffs to make my Django good. If any of you are noticing, like, little things aren't working, like those exposes didn't go away from one of those abilities, just because I don't have omegas on everything. Not everything's maxed out. I'm very judicious with how I deploy all my purple ability mats. Now with Kira here, go with the Old Republic. Another squad with like the bounty hunters, where it's like I've got the squad that it's at a good enough level, but it's not a squad I need to rely on everything. It makes them good for these weaker squads that I want to disrespect. And we're just trying to get through L3 quickly. L3 dispels debuffs really easily, so it's a little annoying, but not at a gear level where we need to worry about them. There's no Zeta on Vandor, so Vandor can be safely ignored. That Zeta is pretty crucial if you want to use the squad. I do wonder how this player is using their gear, because having characters like Rogue One and Smugglers at this point is not the best use. Like, he could improve his defense vastly by adding Radis and Dash if he really wanted to use these squads. You got Geos on the back. Palpatine's what I use here. This is worse in terms of gear than the other Geo squad we faced earlier. Really, I should go undersized, not even use... Stormtrooper is not going to do anything. He's a body. And it's, considering I don't have the Zeta on Palpatine, like characters like Tarkin or TIE Fighter Pilot who you could use to boost turn meter, like I can't do that. Swap to land the stuns. Just work our way through it. No problem. Geos, like, this is what I mean in that video, that list video I had with teams to not use on defense. And I talk about it in terms of the video. There's a preamble at the beginning where it said, think about it in terms of teams expiring. Like, Geos, they're one of those teams that expire. Now, I still use them. I don't know if I've reached the point at which they expire, but they're a team I look to replace depending on like where you are. I mean, really, like the Rogue One and Dash team should be replaced before the Geo team, at least with the versions this guy's using. Here we got JTR. I've got a mostly Gear 11 Rebel squad. Well, I guess what was it, Gear 8? Level 80 Old Ben and a Gear 12 Jedi Knight Revan. Focus on Resistance Hero Finn to start because he is how Inspired spreads to Poe. Poe spreads it to the rest of the squad. So by locking down Finn, I can stop Inspired from going around. Now with him gone, Poe can't give it to anybody else. Go for the stun on Rey before Rey could take a turn. This guy's mods probably need some improvement too. Like, I think the squad could have been more difficult to deal with. Ray's the next big threat, going after her. Get a stun on Ray. Ray also had the buffs. Scav Ray, that is. So I didn't want Ray to take a turn and do anything dangerous. Just controlling the field. And take her out. And the reason I distribute like my Jedi Revan for offense and my Darth Revan on defense, because I don't think I've ever talked about this. It's just Darth Revan, there's only so many squads that can take him out. They're less common for earlier players. Like, you need basically Darth Revan and higher squads. Like Darth Revan, Gas, GLs, depending on gear, Rebels or Sith Empire Padme squads. But most people aren't going to have the counters, at least at the gear levels that are necessary to make them work. So Darth Revan becomes a great defensive squad. Jedi Revan is just going to counter most things that I face. Even like with that one, fully Relic. Going to be a problem is just Jedi Knight Revan, it works great. CLS really needs to have the proper squad around or he's not a threat. So this isn't a proper CLS squad. And I'm using the proper CLS squad. Yeah, and now we're through it. So far, so good. One shot everything. Heading to defense and not a proper defensive fleet. Mace just can't do anything. Maybe someday they'll do something with the Endurance. I mean, it would be really nice if the Endurance could at least function as a cleanup fleet of some sort. I don't think it'll ever happen. It would require too many additional ships for CG to make. And it's hard to make ships that would work well with the Endurance that wouldn't work for the Negotiator. I guess if you separate from Galactic Republic, you could do it, but because he doesn't have a threatening enough defensive fleet, we're going to get through this and we're going to win. We one-shot everything. I don't need to see the banner total. He needed 2 shots up against my Rebels. And there we go. Let's check the results. 1055 to 1028, and we beat a player with a GL. And that's just why there would have been a lot of benefit to him having put Ray on defense. Because if he put his GL Ray on defense, there's nothing I would have been able to do. And it would be my recommendation to that player is to just use that as a default win. Like, I'm sure the reason he doesn't do it is because when you go after a GL early, you're missing a lot of squads. You're going to be missing Jedi Knight Revan, Darth Revan, and a lot of these other options. Like, he's at 4.7, so he might have some more squads at this point. But you see, like, his CLS, he might not have his Han geared up. He might not have a lot of other squads developed, and that is making him want to rely on his Rey for offense instead of using it as a shutdown defense character, because of being worried that he doesn't have the offensive options to clear a board. And that opens things up for me to be able to take advantage of that, because I have a ton of options, both already having at 3 million, 3.2 million GP, strong offensive and defensive options. I'm already deep, and I'm at 1.5 years into this alt account. Week 82, I think. But thank you for watching. Be safe out there, everyone. Be excellent to each other. This is still plays Galaxy of Heroes.